Hello everyone, so today I'm going to share with you guys about introduction to South Africa, and this part consists of population. Population in South Africa. South Africa is the southernmost country on the Africa continent, with over 59 million as of 2019. From 2011 census data, it showed that the population had climbed to over 50.5 million people. That represents a rise of nearly 9 million people over the course of the previous 5 years. South Africa is the world's 24th most populous nation, and it covers an area of 1,221,037 square kilometers. South Africa has 3 capital cities, which are Pretoria as an administrative capital, legislative Cape Town, and judicial Bloemfontein. The largest city in South Africa is Johannesburg, with a population of nearly 4.4 million people in that city. Cape Town is the second largest city in population, with a population of 3.7 million people. Too many cities in South Africa, and all of them are known as for their beauty and rich in cultural diversity. About 80% of South Africans are of Black African ancestry.
Circular flow of income. There is 4 components of macroeconomics in total, which are household, firms, government, and the rest of the world. Circular flow. For the 2-sector economy circular flow, only household and firms will be involved. Household will provide labor. In exchange, firms will reward it with wages and salaries. At the same time, firms will also supply goods and services. Then household will make payment for the goods and services. For the 3-sector economy, the flow is the same as the 2-sector economy, but government will be involved. Household and firms will pay taxes to the government, and the government will give out wages and transfer payment to the household, while giving out subsidies and payment for goods and services to the firms. Moving on to the 4-sector economy, where all 4 components are involved. This time, the rest of the world is included, where import and export happens. Household and firms will buy goods and services from the rest of the world, and the rest of the world will also buy goods and services from household and firms.
Today, I will explain to you guys about the concept of national income in South Africa. The gross domestic product in South Africa was worth $351.43 billion in 2019. Compared to the year of 2018, the gross domestic of South Africa was worth $368.29 billion. According to the data from the World Bank and the projection from the Trading Economics, the gross domestic product value of South Africa represents as much as 0.29% of the world economy. Meanwhile, the data source from World Bank, the gross national product for South Africa in 2019 was $353.53 billion and shown an increase as much as 6.38% from 2018. According to the South Africa Reserve Bank, the disposable personal income in South Africa is decreased to 2,656,414 rand in the second quarter of 2020 to 3,127,441 rand.
Today, I'm going to talk about the method used by South Africa to calculate their GDP, which is using the product approach as the main and followed by expenditure approach. The data I have collected from Statistics South Africa data is an example for the year 2020 to show about the GDP on product and expenditure approach. First, I will talk about the product approach of South Africa. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing are the major sectors in South Africa, which contribute to the economy. Real GDP measured by production decreased by a record 51% in the second quarter of 2020, owing to the impact of the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions since the end of March 2020. The largest negative contributors to growth in GDP in the second quarter were the manufacturing, trade, and transport industry. The manufacturing industry decreased by 74.9% and contributed negative 10.8 percentage points to GDP growth. The agriculture, forestry, and fishing industry was the only positive contributor to GDP growth. Next, I will talk about the expenditure approach. The expenditure approach to calculating GDP takes into account the sum of all final goods and services purchased in an economy over a set period of time. Expenditure on real GDP decreased by 52.3% in the second quarter of 2020, following a decrease of 2.1% in the first quarter of 2020. Now, I will explain the flow of the expenditure in South Africa that affected the GDP. With household final consumption expenditure decreased by 49.8% in the second quarter of 2020, contributed negative 30.8 percentage points to the total growth. Government final consumption expenditure decreased by 0.9%. Gross fixed capital formation decreased by 59.9%. Change in inventory in the second quarter contributed negative 0.8% of a percentage point to total growth. Next, export contribute negative 9.1 percentage point to total growth with decrease of 72.9% and 54.2% in export and imports of goods and services respectively.
For the last part, I will explain about the uses of national income. National income measures economic health of a country. There are three uses of national income, which are standard of living indicator, sectoral contribution, and international comparison. We go to the first uses of national income, which is standard living indicator. Christina already explained about the GDP growth in South Africa. According to the data, GDP growth is decreased by a record negative 51.0% in the second quarter of 2020 compared to the fourth quarter of 2019, as much as negative 1.8% due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the second point is sectoral contribution. As you guys know, South Africa has three major sectors that contributed to the economy, which are agriculture, forestry, and fishing. In South Africa, only these three sectors were a positive contributor. Next, the third uses is international comparison. The purpose of these uses is to make international comparison of people's living standard or real income. Based on the data explained by my group members, we can compare the absolute size of one economy relative to another. And we also can know how well off the average individual is in each country.